Hello everybody, it's Kara from Wild Book Garden, and today I'm here with my December reading plans and my version of a TBR game. If you missed the first one I did, I will link that down below where I explain just a little bit more about why I'm doing this and how it's going to work, but basically I use a deck of really beautifully illustrated Jane Austen themed playing cards that I associated with prompts, and I just pick 8 of them, and I use that to kind of help come up with ideas of things that I might want to read in the month, and it's a fun way for me to share TBRs and to talk about some of the readathons I'm participating in without adding extra pressure to myself, feeling like I should talk about all the books or that I want to talk about all the books. So by limiting myself, I literally can't do that. And I am also doing a couple of readathon things in December. 2 of them actually are created by Margaret from The Word Nerd. One is the Taylor Swift Eras readathon, very excited for that. And then one is the December reading wrap. I am taking a break from Fabelin for this month because in general I try to keep December a pretty chill reading month in terms of like assigning myself things or specific things I want to do. Obviously that's not exactly the case this year, but I am going to try and be like pretty laid back about it. And then I'm also participating in the Queer Lit Readathon, which is from December 4th through 10th, which is created by Kathy at Kathy Treithart. They have a bunch of like rotating co-hosts. I will link that info down below as well. And actually that readathon is ongoing at the time that I am filming this, and I've already read a few books for it, so that's going well as well. And yeah, let's just shuffle the cards and pick 8 of them. As I said, I think I said this previously, if I get 4 from the same novel, then I have to add a prompt. Also, you'll see when I do my wrap up that I did read some of the books that I pulled for this. But like since the theme or like the intention of doing this was just to like get to talk about books I'm excited about and some of the readathons I'm participating in, and to like take pressure off myself with reading, I think that was a success, even if I only read a few of the books that I specifically mentioned. First we have Admiral and Mrs. Croft from Persuasion, and that prompt is to read a hyped book because they are, I think, some of the best characters in that novel, and I feel like they're pretty widely agreed to be some of the best characters in that novel. Sir John Middleton from Sense and Sensibility. Ooh, that's interesting. That's to read a book that is a companion book, so in a companion series. And the reason is because John Middleton loves company. Like, he is always inviting friends over to his house, always making new friends, and so like, you know, companion book. I thought that would be a fun way to associate that one. Eleanor Dashwood from Sense and Sensibility, one of my faves. Oh, and actually, because she's one of my faves, there were a couple of characters that I gave as like kind of a free space, and Eleanor is one of them, so I can use this to pick any book I want. And even though that's kind of the function of this game in general, I especially wanted to include a couple like these because being a very goal-oriented person, sometimes one of the best ways to get me to read something that I'm really excited for and I just want an excuse to read is to like kind of assign it to myself. So that's my thinking. Harriet Smith from Emma, and that is to read a new release, which is good. I definitely have lots of those that I would like to work on. I think the reason I came up with this one is because like her and Emma's friendship is kind of new in the book, and also she's definitely not one of the like old families, you know, the old money families. There's a few reasons actually that Harriet could fit for that prompt. Just because I can't remember which one I specifically chose doesn't mean that it's not a good prompt, right? George Wickham from Pride and Prejudice. And that's just to read a book with red on the cover because he wears a red coat because he's an officer. I think actually that might be one of the prompts in the reading wrap as well, so easy to double up there. I think, is this number 6? Yeah. Henry Tilney from Northanger Abbey, and that is to read a guilty pleasure kind of book. And I don't, you know, a lot of people have said I don't really believe in guilty pleasures, which I agree with. But the reason I associated this one with Henry is because I really love Henry Tilney, but he's one of those characters where it's like in real life, I think he would drive me bonkers. Like, he can be kind of condescending, and I usually don't like his kind of character, but he's just so like interesting and funny and charming. So I feel guilty for liking him. That's kind of how I came up with that one. Sir Walter Elliot from Persuasion. Oh, and that is to read a book that has one of my favorite covers, or a cover that I love. And that is because Sir Walter is obsessed with appearances, his and other people's. So I thought that was an appropriate one. Okay, and then I think this is the last one because I didn't have a novel that I pulled 4 cards from. So this will be our last one. Oh, Jane Austen, the Joker card. So I didn't tell you guys about this, but when I pick this card, it means I am going to send my mom a picture of a few books and ask her to pick one for me, because my mom is like the queen of Jane Austen. She's the one who got me and my sister into Jane Austen, and it just seemed appropriate. So stand by for that. So I will take a break and go and pick some books and come back. Okay, so I am back a couple hours later, so if the lighting is different, that is why. But I'm very excited to talk about the books that I have pulled. So in no particular order, I had the Harriet Smith card, which was to read a new release. And I picked up A Season for Second Chances by Jenny Bayliss. This is not technically, like, I think this is a new release in the US for sure. I just bought this a couple months ago when it came out. I think it's been out for a while in the UK, but I'm still counting this as a new release. So our main character is maybe like middle-aged, which I feel like we don't get this kind of story a lot with older characters, so that's very cool. And her 26-year marriage has just come to an end, so it's kind of like her starting over. Like, her kids have like grown up, so she's kind of looking for a new direction for her life, and she ends up going to this little town called Willow Bay. And oh, okay, so this is kind of set around Christmas time. I was like, I seem to remember this giving me Christmas vibes, but I don't know if that was like because of the book or just because of my interpretation. Also looks like there's a cute little kitty there. There is going to be a romance, but I think this is one of the books that balances like the main character journey with the romance, which is something that I tend to like. I know that some like genre romance readers find those annoying, which I can understand, I guess, but I tend to like that. Also, I am not really a Christmas romance person. Like, I don't read very many like Christmas themed books in general, but especially romances. But for whatever reason this year, I am just kind of in the mood to try more. Probably because I recently read one that I really loved, and so I'm kind of just in that mood, and I think this will be really cozy and lovely. Then a very different tone and kind of book. For the Mr. Wickham card, or George Wickham, it was to read a book with a red cover, and so I picked A Consuming Fire by Laura E. Weymouth. I am not 100% sure I will be in the mood for this kind of book, but I would like to read this sooner rather than later. I think it's going to be fantastic. It's a fantasy book that deals a lot with religious trauma and the way that misogyny can be tied into that. It's about a girl whose sister is sacrificed to a god on the mountain, and she goes after him to kill him because her sister has died and she wants to avenge her. And I feel like I'm gonna really love Laura E. Weymouth's books. I've talked before, it's like, I'm very embarrassed because I keep buying her books and I haven't read any of them, but I have read other things that she's done, like online writing and everything, that I have loved. So I know that I like her writing, and I know that I like her as a person, so I'm not like mad that I have extra books from her, but I figure I should probably pick one up soon. For Admiral and Mrs. Croft, that was to read a hyped book, and also in the interest of trying to get through some of the books that I have like technically started and just never put on Goodreads. I picked Bittersweet by Susan Cain, How Sorrow and Longing Make Us Whole. This is one of the like finalists, I think, for the Goodreads Choice Awards at the time that I'm filming this, the winners haven't been announced yet, so I would definitely count that as hype. Plus her book Quiet I know is very well thought of, and I am like 56 pages into it and I'm already really loving it. This is a book that is right up my alley. It was also a present from my friend Julia at Shakespeare and Such, and I was really loving what I was reading, so I just want to like focus on this one more. This feels like a book that I would want to read like at nighttime. Like, there's certain kinds of nonfiction that I enjoy reading at night, so maybe that's what I will do for this one. And I think I would also count this for a reading wrap challenge. Maybe it would be for the blue cover. I can't remember which one I put this down for. I also should mention that I'm not really going to get into my reading plans for the Eras Readathon specifically. I know I mentioned it at the beginning of the video, but that doesn't start until like partway through December, so you know, I don't want to like set my TBR too officially or anything, but maybe I'll do like a currently reading update and talk about some of the songs that I picked and everything, because the whole theme is like you're choosing prompts and books based on the songs that you like best from each album. You're creating like your perfect set list, which I think I love, but I'm also stressed. It's like I want my faves to win, obviously. Then for Sir John Middleton, that was to read a companion book, and I was thinking I would probably end up picking like a romance or a fantasy romance kind of thing, because a lot of times those series are companion books, but then I remembered that Wildbound by Elaine Audrey Becker would I think actually count. This is the concluding volume to the Forestborn series. I really loved the first book last year. I feel like it's been really underhyped, and this is the final book. It'd be nice to wrap up another series this year, and this is like a companion sequel, because even though it does definitely follow the events of the first book, especially like there's some big things that happen at the end of that first book that this book is grappling with. we are following a new main character, which is our previous main character's brother. And I think Rora is still going to be a point of view character. And actually one of the reasons I haven't gotten to this one yet, even though I really loved the first book and I was highly anticipating Wildbound, is I'm a little worried I won't like her brother as a narrator quite as much, but we will see. I would like to get to this one, so theoretically, I might do that this month. Then I should also mention one of the read-alongs that I am co-hosting. So Sir Walter Elliott is to read a book that has a cover that you love. And so I went with the Fairyland series because I do really love this cover design. Me and My Name is Martinez are currently running a read-along of this series. And this is the third book, the one that we'll be reading in December to discuss probably early January. But this is The Girl Who Soared Over Fairyland and Cut the Moon in Two by Catherine M. Valente. This is the third book in the series, as I said, and I've been really enjoying this series so far. I totally understand why it is not everybody's thing, but I am very pleased that it is turning out to be mine. Yeah, just can't wait to continue that. Then for Eleanor Dashwood, I had kind of a free space, like I could pick anything, and I went with Crema by Johnny Christmas and Dante Luis, with Ryan Ferrier and Atla Harafni. So this is a really, really short, like, graphic novel. It's like just barely 100 pages, which I think even for a graphic novel is pretty short. And I do like the cover. This is a recent purchase that I came across when I was browsing online at a specific indie bookstore. Like, there was a promotion for one of the other books, and so I was kind of just looking around to see what else they had online, or like that they were showing online, and this caught my eye. I like the look of the illustrations. It's about a main character who's a barista named Esme, and when she drinks too much coffee she can see ghosts. And then Yara is the elegant heir to a coffee plantation, is always seen but only has eyes for Esme, and then they end up getting visited by a strange ghost of an old world nobleman who begs Esme to take a letter from New York City to a haunted coffee farm in Brazil in order to reunite him with his lost love of a century ago, bringing sinister tidings of unrequited love. I just think that looks super interesting, and I would also count this for the Spooky Queers prompt for the Queer Lit Readathon, because as you can see from the cover, I believe this is going to have a sapphic romance. But yeah, very interested to pick that up. I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about that one. Oh, speaking of which, I meant to mention for the Jenny Bayliss book that Aoife from Words of Clover is where I heard about that one from. So thank you, Aoife, for that recommendation. I feel like I'm gonna really enjoy it. And then for Henry Tilney, that was to read a book that is like kind of a guilty pleasure, however I wanted to define that. And I came up with a few options for this, and I was thinking, I was like, is that against the rules or the intention of this game? And then I thought that, like, maybe if I allow myself one prompt every month that I can come up with multiple options for to share, maybe that would work. So that's kind of what I'm tentatively going with. So I have a couple different ways to interpret this, and I went with books that I think not so much that like I feel are guilty pleasures, but that I feel like people can be really condescending about. Obviously you can make that argument for any kind of book, but I picked a few specific examples of that. So one of them, I have Miss Newbury's List by Megan Walker. This is a proper romance book, and I feel like one of the reasons I think that it took me a while to start trying more romance, and that I never really got super into the community, besides just, you know, not having a lot of experience with it, is I feel like there's a lot of snobbery around people who like to read romances that aren't as smutty. And I definitely know that that goes both ways. I know that primarily what people talk about is the judgment of people who do read smut, so I understand that, but I feel like the reverse is also a big thing, and it's not usually mentioned. But I have really enjoyed some of the books from this line that I have read, and this is an arc I will be reviewing before it releases in February, so I might want to pick that up in December, so I have plenty of time. And then the other way I interpreted this was with YA contemporaries, because I feel like that is a genre and age range combination that, not that it's not popular, obviously it's doing well, but I feel like it's something that it's not very popular to admit enjoying them, or like they kind of get a bad rap. Like, I feel like a lot of people think of YA contemporaries as doing just one particular thing, which not that those kinds of things are bad things for books to do, but I feel like it has just as much variation as other kinds of books, and I feel like they need more credit. So I picked a couple of also Christmas themed ones, because like I said, I'm just more in that mood than I have been. I have My New Crush Gave to Me by Shani Petrov. I feel like this has gotten kind of mixed reviews, but I think it's just going to be fun and sweet. This also has one of my absolute favorite romance tropes, which is like the decoy love interest kind of thing. Also kind of a matchmaker trope, which is like part of my favorite trope that I love. So our main character is a girl who, she gets the Secret Santa assignment, and it's for her crush, this guy that she really likes, and she enlists this guy's cousin to like help her like figure out how to win him over, but then she ends up maybe liking the cousin more instead. I do have a bookmark in this. I've read just the first chapter, but I already think this is just going to be really fun, and I feel like this is like I'm figuring out that I think that matchmaker trope is one of those for me where like I just pretty much always have a good time with it. Like there are definitely some books that I think do it better than others, but I'm a sucker for it. So even if this is not like amazing, I'm still excited to read it. And then one that I actually have heard good things about and I've been meaning to read for ages, I have 10 Blind Dates by Ashley Elston. This is actually an arc that I got passed on from a friend of mine. It's been out for a while, but I would like to read this. And this is also set around Christmas, and our main character is a member of a big Italian family, and they are all trying to set her up on different dates, like on 10 blind dates. And yeah, I just think this is going to be really lovely. I really like the sound of the family dynamics. I just think this is going to be really cute, and I've heard very good things about Ashley Elston's books in general. I also just realized that I didn't actually summarize Miss Newbury's list at all. So this is a proper romance, like I said, and our main character it's kind of like a bucket list type thing, which is not usually a trope I gravitate to, but this one sounds like it could be fun. So our main character is Rosalind Newbury, and she has a list of things that she wants to do before her wedding day that she's had since she's a young girl. She's had this list, and she's going to be getting married pretty soon, so the pressure is on. And so she ends up going traveling with, I think, her best friend and her best friend's cousin, and she ends up developing feelings for the cousin. So I just think this sounds really good. I know Megan Walker has another book that has gotten very good reviews, and I'm excited to read that one too. So yeah, I realized I should actually have given you a synopsis there. And then I saved this one for last because I thought it would be an appropriate big finale. For the Jane Austen Joker card, I had my mom pick a book out of 3 different books, and the one she chose for me is The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy by Megan Bannon. So this is I think kind of like snarky, slightly spooky fantasy romance. I think there's like some fantasy elements in it. So our 2 main characters have been corresponding through letters, and they really care about each other, but they don't know who the other person is. It's that kind of trope. In real life, they can't stand each other, so it's like a hate to love romance, which my mom also likes. Both of us are fans of that. So when she picked this one, she's like I'm a sucker for this kind of thing, and I was like, I wondered if you would pick this one for that reason. And it also, like I was saying in my anticipated releases video, it reminds me of She Loves Me, because I personally, like, unpopular opinion, I don't like You Got Mail, and I don't tend to like that trope, but the way that it's done in She Loves Me, I really love. So that's what I'm kind of hoping for from this, and I feel like this has gotten pretty good reviews. Yeah, excited to read this. Okay, everybody, so those are some possibilities of things that I might read in December. I don't know. You can probably tell, like, some of these I am less sure about than others, but I mean, the goal is just to read and to be excited about reading and to not put pressure on myself. So even if I don't get to most of these, or maybe even any of these, I think I'll at least get to a few, but even if I don't get to a ton of these, I feel like the TBR game is still doing its job, you know? So yeah, please comment down below. Let me know if you are participating in any of these read-alongs or readathons. I also should mention that our Past It Classics, we are taking the month off for the holidays, and we also are with the Graceling read-along. So those are going to resume in January, but we don't have a book for those right now. And yeah, keep your eyes open for our Classies, the 2nd annual Classies Awards in, I think, January, probably. And yeah, let me know something you guys are excited to read. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!